So my comic is about 80% done. It's 19 pages total, and it's taken me way longer to finish it than I thought it would, but it's all good. The last thing I had to do is the title page and the colors. So that's what I'm talking about in this video. Today I'm going to show you my simple and easy way to color your comic in Clip Studio Paint. So before we start coloring, we need to understand what the mood of the story is. The mood and the setting of the story will determine the colors that you use. My story is about a group of bounty hunters, and they are stuck in a rundown town because they lost all of their belongings. They need gold to buy transportation, and the best way to get gold is to complete a local bounty. My setting is a rundown town at night, and the mood I want to set is a mysterious and adventurous mood. My characters are embarking on a new adventure, but they are also unfamiliar with this area of the world. So the colors you use really depend on the mood that you want for the story. If it's a happy story, you might use bright, warm colors like yellow, reds. If it's a sad story, you might use cool colors and really desaturate them. So you really want to understand what that mood of your story is. On the first page of my comic, I used a cool blue color scheme to emphasize the mysterious mood of the story. I want the first establishing shot to feel cold and dark. So that's why I made it raining. That's why I want this color to be cool and cold looking. So I colored the same scene at daytime, like let's say midday when the sun is right above us in the scene. Then the story would have a completely different color scheme and a different mood. I would use more warm colors, more bright colors. And so that's the main difference between maybe a happy story and a mysterious or a dark story that I'm telling in this scene. So that's why I use cool colors, more desaturated colors, and I use this warm light in the panel to draw the reader's eye to the place where the main characters are staying at this little tavern. All right, so the best part. Now I'm going to show you how I color each panel individually. All right, so welcome to page 3 of the comic. I am pretty much halfway done with this page. To explain how I color, the way I like to do it is, first of all, separate everything by its own layer. So the color has its own layer folder. All the inks have its own layers, and the balloons. So that's how I separate everything. I also separate all the sound effects and everything too. But as far as the color goes, I draw on one layer for each panel. So if you look down here in my layer menu for panel 1 down here, separate everything by panels. So I draw on one layer for each panel. This helps me color each panel as fast as possible. So what I like to do is I like to start with the background. I color the background in first, everything in the background, and then I separate the background from my character by coloring the character on its own separate layer. And this helps me color the background and the character separately. It keeps everything nice and efficient for me. Another thing I like to do is I like to keep my other pages that I colored on the side over here. So basically what I did is I opened this file in Clip Studio, and then I just drag it out into its own window like this. So that's what I have here. I have a couple of other pages, and I also have the character designs for my characters. This really helps me when I just need to hurry up and color pick, and I can easily go in and start coloring the character. So for this page, the next panel I need to color is the 4th panel. And so like I said, I color in the background first on its own layer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a layer above it, color in my characters. And because I have the colors, or I have my character designs on the side, it's really easy for me to color pick the color that I need and start coloring the character. Forgot to mention too, but when you color, you want to make sure that you color inside the panels that you've created, because if you're coloring outside of the panels, outside of that panel layer, then you can color over the top of the panels that you create. So that's why I have my color layer. I have all my layers inside my panel layer, my panel menu. I turn this panel menu off, everything goes off. So that's why it's important to color inside the panels so that all the colors stay inside the lines and inside the box. So same thing for my character Pumari. Because I already have the characters for him in this panel, I'm just going to color pick from him right there and do the same thing. What I like to do is just draw, color in the outline, and just use the fill bucket tool to quickly fill in the shape. So after I did that, I just grab the fill tool, and then I can turn off refer multiple layers, and then I can just add the color I need. So basically this is just the flat color stage, just coloring in the flat colors. And then after this, I'm going to go in and do the shading and lighting. Alright, so after I got all my flat colors down, now I'm going to go in and start shading it like I did with the first panel here. And so what I'm going to do is go to this panel. This panel should be panel 2 and 3. So for the background, just to make it a little bit more interesting, I'm actually going to do some shading in the background of this panel. Just some simple shading, nothing crazy, just to make it look a little bit more interesting, something like that. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So for my character now, for Pumari, what I'm going to do is go to that layer. This is the layer I colored the flat colors on. And what I do to color my characters really easily is I turn on the lock transparency for that layer. If you don't have the lock transparency on, you can just draw all over the layer like this. It makes it harder for you to color the character in. And so what you want to do is after you set your flat colors, go to the layer that the colors are on and click the lock transparency or lock transparent pixels icon. And what that does is it will allow you to only color in the area that the flat colors are on. And so I'm going to add all my lighting and all my shading on this layer. What I like to do is, because I've already colored 2 other pages, I'm going to use the shadows and the lighting from my other previous pages to color Pumari again. So I'm going to do that for all of these layers, and I will come back to you for the final step of my coloring process. All right, the flat color and the shading is all done for this page. I've added all the base colors to it. And now what I want to talk about is adding layer effects to make things glow and make things pop like I did on this first page here. So this is the first page of the comic. And as you can see, some of the colors are a little muted and desaturated. And so what I want to do is saturate the image by adding layer modes to them. And so for this first page, what I did is I added an add glow layer with this orange color, and I added an overlay layer with this blue color here. And so with that orange, I used the add glow to add some lighting to the scene to make it more eye-catching and more, make it more saturated, make it look a little bit better. And so I did the same thing for the background here, but with a overlay layer to make it a lot more darker, to establish that mood and that setting. I wanted to make it look cold, and I want the windows and the tavern to look warm. And so that's how I use the layer modes. And so now what I'm going to do is do the same thing here on this page for every panel. First, I'm going to just turn off those layers and grab that orange. Then I will bring it over here to this file. I have my orange, and then I'm going to grab my blue color for the outside. And I'm basically going to use these 2 colors for the whole comic, for all my scenes, just to keep it consistent. So to create the first glow layer, I'm going to actually go in between my ink layer, where all my inks are, and where my balloon layer is. I'm gonna create a layer in between that. And this will be my add glow. So I'll just name it glow layer. So I'll grab my orange color, set it to add glow. And now what I want to do is select my panel menu and grab my magic wand. Make sure refer multiple layers is off and select the inside of that panel. So now what I can do is just grab my airbrush and color in, oops, wrong brush. I can just grab a soft airbrush like this and add some glow to it. Like this. I want that lantern to have some light going on in there. Nice. I do want to add a little bit of that overlay to this panel too. So I'm going to create another layer. I'll create it above the glow layer and name it overlay. And now what I'm going to do is use the gradient tool and foreground to transparent up here in the top right. I'm just going to drag it down, create like something like that. But I forgot to set it to overlay, so just make sure you have it on overlay. Now I have that cool saturated mood to this panel, and I like that. So you can play around with that and do what you like, but I think that looks good for this first panel here. Looks pretty good. Yeah, I like it. Looks pretty good. So I'm gonna do the same thing for the rest of the panels. So adding all the glow effects and the overlay layers, this is definitely my favorite part, just because you get to make the scenes come to life, adds more life to the scene, and it's definitely one of my favorite parts of this whole process. But yeah, that's it for this video. Hopefully I was able to help you out with this little tutorial on how to color your comics, and hopefully you can use some of the stuff I was talking about in your own comics, your own drawings. And so yeah, I'll see you in the next one, and peace out.